So I wasn't recording when you were saying that.
Yeah. Oh, well, now come on. That ain't fair. Just give me a lead-in question.
Okay.
Like, so tell us who you are.
Yeah. So who are you?
Well, hello, I'm your grandmother. Born and raised in Iceland, and that is why I have this accent.
That's right. You should be able to understand her pretty well. I don't think I'll have to do subtitles.
Oh, well, yep. Well, it's a beautiful day here today, but so I'm enjoying visiting with you here on the alpaca farm. Yeah. What adorable animals. Oh, man. They're just gorgeous. But so are the Icelandic sheep.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
They are adorable too. Yeah. Yeah. So you were asking me about vitality of life. And really, when I had a stroke back in November 1st, and I recovered so quickly that in 3 or 4 days I was able to jump my rope out on the deck. And I really can't emphasize enough for people to get help immediately. Don't try to doctor yourself. I mean, it's not worth it. And vitality of life, I call because I like to move. And I take every opportunity, not just to go to the gym. I'm not very good at that, but I do exercise at home and make sure that I jump and don't waste time like when the microwave is going. Instead of just letting it go to waste on the time, I hop. 1, 2, 3, do the microwave hop. So I enjoy life. I enjoy traveling. I like to do things and experience new things. I like to go, as you know, paraglide and whatever there is to do.
And how old are you?
I turned 92 on May 21st. And I'm good physical health, and it really, I realize a lot of people have limitation and not able to do some of the things that I do, but you can always do a little bit, and whatever little bit you can to any ability, just do it. I wasn't able to move a whole lot on the bed when I had the stroke, but I saw the handlebars on each side of the bed there in ICU, and I thought, that's great exercise bars. So I grabbed them to lift myself up. Hey, I started exercising right then.
Yeah, and growing up, I always remember you active. You're always moving around. You weren't sitting down, and even with a bunch of family was there, you know.
Yeah, well,
you might sit down a few minutes to talk, but you were always up doing something.
Well, yeah, but as a mother of 10,
not much time to
sit. You kind of get trained from the very beginning on, or something like that. And then when you have the little one coming along, yeah, you kind of move around quite a bit. That's just normal. And besides, I have my coffee. That always keeps me going.
Right. She always has coffee.
Hey, with enough coffee, all things are possible. I think I read that somewhere. Yep, that's all right. That's all right. Life is good. And there is so much to enjoy out there, and it doesn't have to be strenuous. You don't have to climb the mountain, although I would like to. But getting out there and smell the roses.
Yeah, and they're in bloom right now.
Oh yeah, it just, this is a gorgeous time of the year. I love it. Yeah.
So how did you get to America?
Oh, mercy. You know, it's an interesting thing. People ask me, now how was it to leave your country and come over here? And I have to think, how was it for the American troops that went overseas, left their country, left their families, left their job, left everything, and some to even die for others? I mean, then I feel mighty small about my issues of coming over here, but I enjoyed it, and this is a great country, and so I've had all kind of opportunities to see what it's like to live a good life. And I was married to my husband that I met World War II in Reykjavik. And he proposed 48 hours after we met, and I said yes. And the rest is history. I came over here, and the marriage lasted for 70 years, so it must have been meant to be. It was love at first sight, as the saying goes. I know it's a trite saying, but at the same time, it can be very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, you meet your soulmate, and the rest is it.
Yeah.
Yep. It's been very good. It's been very good. And there was some issue. I got homesick, and crossing the ocean in those days, it was not by airplane and quickly come and go, but rather by a ship. That took a long time. And halfway across the ocean, I changed my mind. I decided I go back home. I never left Iceland. And it kind of like you could take Iceland out of the girl, but can't take girl.
The other way around.
The other way around. Yeah. There you go. There you go. Yeah. There you go. In any country, this is very true. You can have that country, and take the girl out of the country, but the country stays in the person, even though it's, down home, But I realized it was not feasible for me to turn the ship around. It was a troop ship, so they wouldn't have done it anyway. There was a lot of troops aboard that they wanted to go home, and home to them was America.
Yeah.
Home to me was behind Iceland. And I got over here and met my mother-in-law, who did not speak a word of English. And so it's all by motion, pointing, And for the longest time, I couldn't call her Mary. I called her, hey, you. But that worked, That kind of the way that the American where they came over and we were working as waitresses, they would call, hey, you, coffee? Hey, you, Coca-Cola? So, yeah, that worked too. Yep. And life was good over here. It took me a long time. My poor husband was trying to teach me some of the English words, and I butchered up a lot of them. But he tried to speak some Icelandic. He butchered that up, so we were kind of even on that. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. I would butcher it up too.
I think that'd be kind of natural,
Icelandic is very good.
Well, but hey, listen, when they had the volcano eruption in 2012, I believe it was, but at any rate, even the best announcers on television were having a hard time pronouncing Eyjafjallajökull. I mean, it is so easy.
So easy.
So easy. All things are easy when you know how,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but I think one of the hardest words for me was because I would pronounce them the way that I would see them, And for the longest time, my husband couldn't understand what I was talking about if something was a catastrophe. You look puzzled.
Yes.
Yeah, what in the world came back? And he had the same look, catastrophe. Yeah, he couldn't come up with it. But then one day I added another word to it because something happened. I think it was a car accident or something. And I said that was a terrible catastrophe. Catastrophe? Yeah. He said, you pronounce it catastrophe. I said, there's no F in there's no F in catastrophe. But he said catastrophe. So anyway, that was the way I learned my English. Quite torturous at times. The kids had fun with it. Because they loved to bring the little kid to home, and then they would ask me to say something, especially they loved to have me say volleyball, because I just couldn't say volleyball right. They didn't say, no strawberry. I kind of roll the R's now and then, just a little bit. But I like to say, I don't have the accent, you do. It all depends.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Well, you don't knit much anymore.
No.
But
yeah,
your muscle memory is there. Because we were practicing yesterday and you pick it up.
A little,
Yeah.
Just a little bit, because we used to knit with the, like if it was a sock or anything that was round, we would use the 5 knitting needle, and they would be that there would be a metal and pointed at each end. Yeah.
Yeah, I have the double points here, but mine are wooden.
Yeah. Well,
So,
even that worked
you remember
too. Yeah.
yours were metal.
Yeah, and the interesting thing that from my memory from way back when is at night, because we didn't have electricity, we had the oil lamps, and it got pretty dark in Iceland when fall came and winter was approaching, and there would be knitting inside, especially my grandma. She was very, very, very quick, and I could hear those clicking of the needle at night. It would just be dusk in the kitchen, and I can almost go back there with a fire going in the stove, and a little bit of aroma of the mutton soup cooking on the back of the stove, and of course the everlasting coffee pot. I mean, that was just always the coffee pot. But then you would hear the clicking of these needles just as they were getting ready, making things for winter. Yeah. So,
And you were telling me about the first thing that a child would learn how to do.
yeah, the very first project, the little kit we started on, and which I learned too, was the leppar. And the leppar is an insole that you put inside of your shoes. And they were pretty well plain. They were not with ornate patterns that were picked up, I think, later on. But yeah.
Now, I've talked about this book before, Icelandic Knitting, that I have. And in the beginning, the author, Helene Magnusson.
Yeah.
So what she's done is she took the shoe inserts that my grandma's talking about, which were like these, and Helen has created modern patterns based off of these more traditional inserts. But you're saying your family didn't make any special
pattern. No,
there was one. Here's a real plain one.
Yes. Yeah.
Like more like get this one. There was nothing quite to it, but it was all made in garter stitch.
All garter stitch, and usually just very plain, and they were usually from the brown sheep, from the wool, that we spun, and then knitted into the leopard. And like I said, it was mostly the brown, and I presume they're just smart thing to do because they got kind of soiled, so you wouldn't want to have the white ones. So, but did not have the pattern as far as colors added to it, not at that time. And I'm talking about in the 30s.
1930s,
yeah. 1930, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, a little while back.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I don't know where Helen found these, or what, a different region or something that they may have done something more like this. But I remember reading this book and finding it interesting, going, why would you spend all the time to make these so pretty?
Yeah.
All this type of color blocking and things, and it goes in a shoe and no one ever sees it.
That's right. That's right. Good point.
So you didn't go to all that work, you just
good point.
made it functional, and there it is.
Yes, there you go. Yeah. And easy for us kids, there's no need to add to the frustration where you're learning to knit and then have to add color to it at the same time.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
And
yep.
Now, did your family have Icelandic sheep?
My grandpa did.
Your grandpa?
Oh, yeah.
Where you would get the wool?
Yeah.
You would get the wool from him. And
yeah. Now that's another word that's easy to say. Vopnafjörður.
Vopnafjörður.
Very good. Yeah. Bay of the Weapons.
Oh.
Yeah. Or the fjord. The fjord is a fjörður is a fjord. So the fjord of the weapons.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, you were saying how you remember the hand cards to process the wool.
Yes.
Doing the hand cards.
Yeah.
Which I don't have
They were the flat, and they had the very fine needles on them. But you take them opposite you know, you lay the wool on top, and then you took the, I call them brushes, but you call them
hand cards.
Cards, like cards.
Say C-A-R-D.
Thank you very much. I could say carbs. See,
or hand
but at any
carders.
rate, yeah, we would take them and pull them opposite, and then depending on how much we done that, it got finer and finer. The more you done it, it got finer, and then it was finally put into like a small bale like at the very end, and that is what we set aside, and it was put near the spinning wheel, and that's where we got our thread, from the sheep to the shoe. Oh, that's bad.
Sheep to the shoe.
Oh, that was bad.
What were other things that you made besides the shoe inserts? We did talk about the traditional Icelandic sweater with the yoke pattern.
Yeah, I would say that it was gloves. Mostly at that time, it was more practical. You know, the practical thing that keep you warm. So it was a leppar for the shoes, and the gloves, mittens mostly. When you say gloves, that's got fingers, but the mittens, and the scarves and hats, and that was very, very basic. And there was some underwear, you know, that we
you knit your underwear.
A few items here and there,
Yeah.
just for warmth, you know.
Yes.
But I don't know how popular that was with other. But I know that
Your family.
I think you would call that here maybe a camisole. Is a camisole
that would have been under someone's skirt or like.
up at the top? Just a little.
Oh,
Yeah, it was almost
okay.
like an undergarment that it just kept you warm.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You may have erased that.
Well, I was curious with the Icelandic sheep because I know there's two parts to their wool, and I forget the two names. And someone told me way back when, I'm not quite sure how far back, they would separate out the really fine, soft part and the more coarser part. But over time, they started using them together.
Okay.
Do you remember ever separating those two parts?
Now our method was that, and I have to go back to when I was a kid and we were doing it, not the way they do it now,
Yeah.
and professional and all that new stuff. And there was a creek that ran through the property of Grandpa, and we would shear the sheep. And of course that was fun in itself because we kids got to sit on them and hold their horns. Well, Iceland sheep have horns. And so we got to sit them and hold them down, and then Grandpa would use clippers, not this fancy stuff they use.
Yeah, not the electric shears, but like the big
Just,
hand scissors.
everything
Yes.
in hand, yeah.
Yes.
And after they were sheared, then we would take it down to the creek, and there would be a huge black pot there, and the wool was dumped into the pot, and we had a long stick, and we would lift that up, and we had a lye soap, that was homemade lye soap, that was dumped in there first, and then dip the wool in there, and when it was all looked pretty clean, it was lifted out, and this took the man to do that because that was heavy, and we spread it out on the lava rock and get it to dry. After it would dry, we would take it into the house, and that's where we separated. And in one corner went the outer wool, and it was more stringy, and it was stronger, and that was the wool that we used to make the leppar and the gloves and hat. And then the wool that is next to the body of the sheep is very, very fine. And when you start using that, that's called a lopi. And so the sweaters in Iceland are very, very sought after because of their softness and warmth. And they are just about water resistant. I don't know whether they ever get soaked. It falls off them. But at any rate, that is what is the lobby or the inner wool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And what was my next question?
Yeah, it was a long process, and everybody got involved. No such a thing as somebody stayed in the house and got to read the paper or a book. Nothing like that. Everybody got into that, from the littlest one to the oldest one. Yeah.
How many times a year were they shorn?
Once.
Once a year?
Yeah, once a year.
In the spring then?
It's spring.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was fun time.
Huh. Well, how about you show us how you knit and purl? I can remember. I'll give you this. If you remember.
I'm not going to remember how I purl.
Here.
We do that. But I will remember how I knit.
How you knit. All right, let me turn this on.
Ready? Thank you. Start on. I find this easier and faster than the new way of flipping it over, I think it is. But
well, and this is what would be happening at night. Okay.
I think maybe I've forgotten how to do the purl.
Okay, I'll show the purl.
Okay.
You showed me once, years ago, when I first was learning to knit.
Yeah?
I came and visited you, and you showed me the way that you purled.
Yep, it's backwards. And okay.
Okay. Here, I'll give you this so you can get a close-up on it.
That's kind of funny.
Okay, so, yeah, the yarn is in back.
Yeah.
You still enter purlwise, but you swing back around, grab the yarn,
Yeah.
bring it to the front, and then pull it through.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can get really good at this. I've seen people go really fast.
Yeah.
And you can see, I know how to do it, and I've practiced it. I've, you know, just so I know how to do it, and
Yeah.
it can be useful in some situations. But I find that if I purl this way, my pearls are bigger. Like, yeah, bigger than, and I don't know if that's not quite right.
Yeah.
But, oh, maybe it doesn't learn. Wrap around, bring it back through. There's the pearl. Okay,
Yeah.
hopefully I get it right.
Yeah. So I'm going to have to practice and try to pick up on how I done that, because that was just something.
And if you look up on YouTube, this type of pearl is called the Norwegian pearl. So you can find someone who does this really well and can actually talk you through the steps. I might have done that.
Okay. I'm trying to just do it without looking at it.
Yeah, the muscle memory should just come back, right?
Okay. So. Nope, I got one loop too many. Nope, got one loop too many. Why do I go like this? Okay. Ha-ha!
And what you were doing was...
I put the thread in front first.
Oh, you did? Oh, yeah, you put the needle behind the yarn and then you entered in. Oops. Yeah. Oh. Okay. Let's film that part. Okay.
Okay.
No, yeah, we figured it out. Okay. So even though the yarn is behind the left-hand needle, the right-hand needle goes behind the yarn first.
Right.
Then enters into the stitch, purlwise, comes around, grabs it, and still goes back to the front and back out. And there's the purl bump. Okay, that's what I was missing previously. There it goes. And it feels easier that way.
Yeah.
It does.
Once you get going, you can
does.
really just go flying.
Yeah. Okay, I did mess that one up, but you get the idea.
Yeah. Well, it just takes a little practice. It took a little memory going back. But
yeah.
Well, you done it all correct here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was my other type of purling.
Yeah.
All right. So you have written a number of books. And when did you first work on your memoirs? How long ago was that?
The first one, when I really thought I finished it, was in 14.
It was only 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. So this was the... Oh, did this go out? This was the original one. My screen went out, so I can't tell if I'm up close or not. Under the old title, but the cover still looks the same. Hopefully I'm getting this right, because I can't tell. But it's been retitled Growing Up Viking. And I'll put a link down in the show notes to get it directly from the publisher. There's 2 ways you can get the books. They are on Amazon, but you can also get them directly from the publisher, and you'll actually get a signed copy of the book from her. And then another edition of the same book.
Yeah, Viking Kids Don't Cry, and that one is more geared for easier reading for younger children. Yeah, and it is of the memoir of me growing up and just having the fun time what we're doing. But I did take out of that the like World War II and some of the things that are a little bit more serious in nature. I didn't think that children would necessarily relate to that, but the fun thing could be for a parent or educator to read the memoir, and then a child can have the Viking Kids Don't Cry.
And they can talk about it.
Yeah, right.
Because the Growing Up Viking has a lot of the historical information in there as well, where she refers to places or events or things.
Right.
So there's extra stuff in there from this one. And then the Silver Arrow, that came out recently?
Yes.
Yes. Sorry, don't know if you're going to see it, but it would be this one here. And that's a sequel?
No, the sequel is coming.
Oh, the Silver Arrow was the first one,
yes,
and you're working on the sequel now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which will be released this fall?
Yes.
Sometime?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. The Inner Space Aliens.
That's the sequel to the Silver Arrow?
Yes.
And what is that story all about? Is it more... Because this was your memoirs.
Yeah. Oh, the Silver Arrow is...
Yeah, the Silver Arrow.
Yeah, it's totally a fiction, but based in Iceland. And I was intrigued after reading about how the German professor used an Icelandic young man to kind of take him through the journey through the center of the earth. And then the professor went back to Germany and his nephew, but nothing was said about what happened to the guide, the Icelander.
Oh.
Yeah, and I was like, well, what happened? He went back to Iceland. Did he have a family? Did he have a kid? Did he have grandchildren? Well, yeah, that's where that comes in.
Okay.
Yeah, no, the Silver Arrow. Yeah, that was starting the grandchildren. Finna is the protagonist of the story. Is a great-granddaughter of the guy that led the folk through the central year.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And then you have another book here, which is Homestyle Icelandic Cooking for American Kitchens, which is a book that you co-wrote with my aunt, your daughter, Heidi Herman.
Yep.
And so even if you're not a big fiction reader, you might be a cook.
There you go.
You can get this one.
Oh, cooked and baker are the marvelous cleaners, and I love cleaners.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that you put in here? Some of the more traditional...
Vínarterta, pannukökur. I'm giving you a hard time.
I've never had any of these. They're going right over my head. Don't ask me to repeat.
Pannukökur is a pancake.
Okay.
Yeah.
That must be this thing up here.
Cleaner is kind of like a, maybe a little bit like a donut, but not that soft. You know, like a cake donut.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very, very good. And the terta is a tort.
Tort.
Yeah.
Okay.
Layer, 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 layer.
Yeah.
Yep.
What was on the back? Okay.
Yeah.
And my aunt Heidi Herman has also written books related to Iceland and folklore and different things. So, oh yeah, as well as a coloring book for kids with the
Icelandic Yule lads.
The Yule lads.
Yeah.
Yes. Which here's another one, Yule lads. And here's more legends of Icelandic Yule lads. Yep. So all kind of related, and I'll put links to her books as well down there, so you can get all things Viking, Icelandic.
Oh yeah. It's
a whole collection.
It all has the roots. they all had the roots there because it's all either from the reading or tradition from my grandpa, who was just avid reader of Icelandic sagas, and a lot of my memory come from way back when. And I remember the one thing about my grandpa. I must have been maybe a wimp or something, but he said, "No, Viking kids don't cry. They bellow, they holler, they yell, they scream, but they don't cry."
You must have been crying when he told you that.
He
wasn't crying about something.
Something must have happened. I probably got hurt a bit, but boy, he himself was quite a character when it came to getting hurt. Nothing, but of course you didn't have doctors handy.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So I remember
take care
one time,
of yourself.
Yeah, he almost split his thumb up. He using one of those scythe. Is that how you call the scythe when you cut the grass? The old fashioned. He was sharpening it with a lava rock, going back and forth, and it slipped, and he was chewing tobacco. But anyway, he just put that in there, put the red handkerchief all around it, and that's how he doctored it. He didn't cry.
Must have hurt.
Yeah. So
my goodness.
That's why he was just quite a hardy character. Nice man.
Wow.
But really, those were difficult times.
Yeah.
A lot of time when they went out to fishing, you know, we had no guarantee that they would come back. Yeah. But life was hard, but we grew up independent and hardy folks, good people.
Yeah. Good blood.